And of course, everyone speaks at the
All
same
right.
time.
Good morning, Guildify Con. Welcome to the final day of Guildify Con. We have our 4 wonderful, beautiful panelists today to join us for Black is My Happy Color. So I'm going to give a chance for our panelists to introduce themselves if they haven't already. But JD, we're going to start with you.
JD Glasscock. I write the series Blood Brothers and The Dream, and an upcoming one called Embers and Ash. There you go. I'm doing a takeover after this, so really it's kind of redundant.
Completely understandable. All right. We're going to go to you, TJ. We're going to stick with the order for now.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. I'm TJ Lombardi. I am the founder of the Brian J. Norton fan club, as we like to refer to ourselves as Nords or Nordies. So, yeah, I'm just happy to be here and just talk about Brian's book.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Newkirk, and I am author of the upcoming trilogy, Knights of Eternity, coming out next year. And I am not a part of the Brian J. Norton fan club, nor will I ever be.
Hi, I'm
they're
Kellen
besties,
Wilkinson.
Man. They're besties. I don't want to hear it.
I'm the author of the Elementalist series and the Forging Valiant series, and as of yesterday, the Krampus Chronicles, because book 1 just came out yesterday, so yay.
Congrats, man.
Good stuff, Galen.
Crazy exciting. Okay. So, I'm still learning my way around it, but first question I'm going to go with is, how is Grimdark different than most other lit RPG, and what that makes it so unique? I'm going to go with Kellen.
Okay, yeah, so like with lit RPG, you've obviously got like other subgenres. You've got cultivation, ICQ, etc. I'd say if you add like a dark fantasy / like grimdark label to it, you can play with more types of tones and you can play with suspense in a different type of way. Because if there are darker types of consequences and you can show a more brutal side to actions throughout this world, then it adds this another layer to things. And especially with like the lit RPG genre, there's so many different types of ideas you can play around with like statistics, stats, classes, spells, and stuff. But if you're able to add a few more like macabre type of things in there and just play with a lot darker tones, it just adds this whole nother layer and this whole other like subgenre to the genre as a whole.
Thank you. I'm going to jump up to TJ.
Oh, I was hoping you weren't. Darn it.
Yeah, so how does Brian write Grimdark?
Yeah, I want to hear about Quest Academy. Tell me, TJ.
How dark and bloody it is.
I don't know if I should really talk about Quest Academy or maybe Baldur's Gate 3. Because if you know, I have... The game is like my love child to you all. You're welcome.
Was it with a bear?
Yes, with the bear, Kalen.
You're going to do that. You got to like be vaping every 10 seconds.
Oh, man, I wish I could smoke a cigar right now. That'd be epic. I think, the reason where I have been attracted more to the grimdark side is for the bleak subject matter, the disturbing sense of things, or the more violent on that side. And so it's one of those things where I like to not feel like I am limited in a certain scope or frame. I have creative room to feel like, hey, there's certain boundaries that I can really push. In The Dying Breed Injustice, I really had to stop myself, and I had to ask the question, okay, as I am writing the scene, I see this line here, and if I push any further on it, I will really disturb some readers, and I could easily be labeled as this gore author, which I don't necessarily want, but I want to make sure I really hit the details. And the feedback I got from beta readers and my development editors were like, dude, like, you took our breath away. Like, holy cow, that was really intense. We weren't really ready for it, but you respectfully saw the line, you took us right there, and you pulled back. In Call Sign Bloodbath, Book 2, Enmity, I wanted to push that line even further because I just felt like the intensity and the magnitude of the subject matter needed to be as realistic and as dark as possible, to where it made the reader almost feel uncomfortable, because this is a subject matter that most people don't talk about. So I feel like for the lit RPG genre, I really resonate more on this grim dark side, to where I want to really push the reader out of necessarily some comfort zones per se, or make it feel like the readers are like, man, I am right there in the intensity of the moment.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Doug, I'm not there with you. Like, I am so rottenly behind on my work, but I'm enjoying every moment of being part of these panels.
Yeah, you're not the only one, Doug. I've written one chapter this entire week.
Oh goodness. All right, we're gonna go to Rachel.
Sorry, you've managed a chapter this week? I've done nothing.
One, yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, I think, okay, I've forgotten the original question, but we'll roll with Grimdark. I think for me, the biggest thing about it is that there is consequences to action. So we're not going to talk about the later seasons of Game of Thrones, but in the earlier seasons, if people died, it's because of their choices. It's because they did something stupid or forces worked against them. Like there was an actual, like I went into every single
Jar Jar just like slaughtering people, but yeah.
Also that, but like it was always for a reason. And this was something, I think it's why, like, I love reading lit RPG, I love reading fantasy, I love reading sci-fi, but in a lot of books, there's plot armor. And it means that I am never fully along for the ride unless I think people can die. And for me, I'm not a super grimdark writer, but like, I kill characters left, right, and center. So I think that's it, that you go into it being like, when a character gets into a situation, I genuinely do not know if they're going to survive. And I think that is the power of something that's a little bit more realistic.
And I literally, the way I describe grimdark to people is it's the novel version of a rated R film. So whatever you're writing, whether it be trauma, emotion, sexuality, violence, all that stuff, you do it with very little filter. So, which is how I used to write film and how I write novels, all my stuff's grimdark, is because life to me doesn't have a filter, and I like realistic, whatever I'm reading or watching or whatever it is, I like it to be reality based, or at least even within your magical world, still reality based within the world you defined. You know what I mean? So, and I think as Rachel said, with actual consequences and edge. I hate it when I watch a film and someone's getting gutted with a knife, and yet you're not seeing. There's no bleeding. There's no. I'm like, like the PG Wolverine the old beginning X-Men, when he's like slicing everybody with his blades and like no one's bleeding. I'm like, dude, they're just falling. I'm like, man, come on, man, you're breaking my immersion.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so we haven't got a whole lot of questions from the audience yet, so I'm going to continue with my own. How did you get started into grimdark or dark lit RPG, and where did your inspiration come from? And I'm going to start with Rachel on this one.
I really hoped you weren't going to start with me, because my mind went blank when you asked those questions. No, so I think for me, I think it's someone who grew up reading I went through like a big paranormal romance era in my 20s, and I think for me it started to get really dry and it started to get really boring, because it's exactly as JD said, it's not realistic. It's like people are being cut up and they're being hurt in a way that is just like glitter is almost coming out of them. I'm not actually believing anything that's going on. Yeah, well, actually I'd like to see glitter, like Edward Cullen get cut up and glitter goes everywhere. That would be fun. But I think for me, the inspiration is like, life can be a bit shit. And I know we write to escape, but like when someone just gets hurt and then they just pick up and they keep running, like that's not realistic. I want someone to feel pain. I want someone to, when they get hurt or when like someone dies. And I like that you mentioned emotions, JD, as well. It's like that there's actual grief, that there is consequences to this, that when someone is hurt, like you really fucking feel it. And that like, that for me is what draws me to it. It's my own life. That sounds very depressing. But it's that life is difficult, and that I think we can use books to escape from that, and also to understand it and process it. And I have a question actually once we're done this round, Kyle, that I am very curious to ask. So yeah.
I'm absolutely interested, Rachel.
I'm absolutely terrified.
I'm going to go to Kellen.
Yeah, so I'd say my Elementalist series really didn't have, that was my first series. I wrote those first 4 books. Didn't really have too many grimdark like elements in them. And then whereas I wrote the next book I wrote after those was The Villain Chef. And that's basically like more of a character drama. You've got like these 10 characters within this one location for most of the book. And when you're doing that, it's really important that when you're doing all this character work and focusing on character over plot, or the characters make the plot, it's important to show the lengths these characters are willing to go through to accomplish their goals and defeat their enemies or escape from the dungeon. And there's a lot of unique ideas you can play with in a food dungeon involving bodies and new just concepts and such. And it's really neat to like find these different things you can go with to like balance tension and suspense. And then with, like writing a Krampus book, you obviously it needs to be very much so horror related. You need to find a way to make this horrific tone come in with just this ambience of dread whenever the Krampus is present and whatever he's doing, whether he's got all of these layers and layers of clothing, and he's got these like things within them. You don't know where the clothing meets the skin, and he's got these like ancient past and these rituals he's doing that's all very macabre. And if dark fantasy or like they want these things you could have horror elements, then that wouldn't be a story that's able to be told, because it's very much so got those darker elements. And as for inspiration, I couldn't point to one specific book, but they're out there. It's like those. I would say as well, like A Song of Ice and Fire, even like the Life Reset series has a lot of darker moments in it, that I'd say were pretty motivational in how to write like gore or fight scenes in a more so like dramatic and suspenseful type of way.
We'll go to JT for this one.
So without going into details, like, dude, my childhood was somewhat harsh. It was that old school, a lot of yelling and hitting and all that kind of stuff. So whether that's positive or negative, I am who I am based on it. And even in my early days, I remember reading when I was like, it was a little much for me, but I remember when I was like 9, I tried to read White Gold Wielder. And if anyone knows about that, literally the book starts with MC's a leper. And one of the first scenes is literally him with a hooker. So literally, and to me, reality or life has like no filter, and it's harsh and it's all those things, but it's also beautiful in the same way with no filter. So to me, I get immersion broken when I'm literally seeing kind of non-realistic thing, like Rachel said, non-realistic things, and whether it be film or whatever. And I write everything I've written in film and shot in film, and same thing with novels, is all grim dark. It's all that, because to me, it's the only thing that really resonates with me. And whether it be emotional, like she was saying, emotional or as long as there's poignancy to it, and it's working your character development and your story development, and there's a point to it, then I have no qualms with writing a sex scene or writing a violence or writing any of those things, because it adds an impact and impetus and a intent. I still think there's a line there where it's unnecessary. Like as soon as it's not poignant to the story, I pull out of it. You know what I mean? There's no need to show it if it's not, I don't. In a film, one of my films, I alluded to a rape scene, but I didn't need to show that. You know what I mean? Like I alluded to, it happened, but I there's no necessity to actually show that kind of horror. But I think in like book 4, and I think the one thing Rachel referenced that I agree with 100%. It's like book 4 and Blood Brothers. I had some horrific stuff happen to the party at the end of book 4. And I had some really cool comments from my narrator and a couple fans of the series that in book 5, the whole first third of the book is them dealing with the trauma that happened in book 4 at the end. And he's like, oh my God, dude, you didn't just fluff that off and move on. You literally actually had them deal with the repercussions of what happened. And I said, yeah, because that's reality, man. You don't just have horrific things, then skip to my loo like 5 minutes later. I mean, that's not really life. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I read a book recently that just, I won't say it, obviously, but I read a book recently that just ruined things for me, because it was a very dark romance, lots of violence, lots of, blood and gore and all this jazz. But he hurts a kid at one point. And I won't go into detail, but there is no person alive who would want to be with this man after witnessing what he did to a fucking child. And it just ruined, it ruined the whole thing for me, because it was like, it's that line between you have to be realistic, but that also means you have to be realistic. No one is going to go with someone after witnessing something
I
agree.
It's
It's just for the point of it.
Sounds unnecessary.
Exactly. It's like doing it for the shock value as opposed to doing it for the poignancy of the story or for.
I always say when people do it gratuitously, it's because they're shitty writers and they're trying to make up for the shitty writing. I mean, at least in film, usually that's the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I completely understand. So TJ.
All right. So what was my inspiration come from? And that question there. So there's a little bit of two sides to this. When I was writing the Die and Breed series, because it's a fantasy, I was in Qatar deployed, and being a military police, we were responsible for securing the base, looking at any threats presented. And one of the jobs that we had to do was we called it Man Camp. And some of you may have heard about it for the Qatar FIFA games or whatever, where they had some UN people, want to say there's human crimes. Well, in this man camp, there was basically small apartment houses, but they were basically just rooms. And, I'm sitting here in a master bedroom size room where there'd be about 30 men living in this size of a room. And so we had to go through and patrol this area. And you saw these rooms filled with these multiple bunk beds. And these men only had, 2 or 3 changes of clothes. And so their livelihood was going to work for 12 to 14 hours a day, going back, washing their clothes almost every night, and then they had a meal. But to them, they were so miserable in some extent, but happy because they were providing a living of like 4 to 5 times what they could back in their home, location. And that really resonated with me because, I would go be with my Air Force members who would complain, well, these dorms suck, man. Like, the internet's so terrible. Oh, my coffee was ruined at Starbucks. I'm like, way to be a weak ass, motherfucker. So when it was the Dying Breed, it was always, I have such a blessed life where I am to where I can go read a book on a couch, but to put myself in the fantasy world and setting, the average peasant would be sleeping with their pigs to keep them warm so that they had livelihood later on. I don't know many people who could sit in a pig trough sleeping without being miserable in today's setting. So I wanted to draw this realistic approach of like, hey, your life right now is pretty fucking great if you're reading my book. And so immerse yourself. So there was that. And then when it came to Call Sign Bloodbath, I was writing in third person with the Dying Breed, but I really wanted to switch to this first person. And so that's where I read Jez's Brightblade. And that was my first introduction to Jez's work. So when I saw how he presented the perspective and the tone and the approach of it, I was like, now I know how I want to approach this character. And I really wanted to have that line of the first person shooter element, the assassin, the guy who's just like, I don't give a fuck. So that was kind of my inspiration for that as well, was
Doom.
This is going to be as realistic as possible.
All right. So I apologize, Doug, if I don't say your last name right, but I'm going to try.
I think Rach had a question.
We have a question from Doug Losi. But we are going to run to Rachel real fast. I did promise that she could have her question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, all right. Okay, this is more for myself. Do you find it more therapeutic to write something grimdark than you do to write other things? That is something I find curious, because I'm not nearly as dark as you guys are, and especially Kaylin. I can't wait to read the Krampus, because that sounds fabulous. But do you find it therapeutic? Because I do. I don't want to write something really light and fluffy all the time, and it is helpful for me to process my own shit, particularly around, like I mentioned in another panel, I have anxiety. I'm on medication for it. I have been for years. Love drugs, but actually seeing a more realistic representation of that and how horrible your own thoughts are and how horrible your own mind can get, that was really therapeutic for me to write. So yeah, is that therapeutic?
Who wants to take that one?
I'll go, but now don't. So, like, I don't know about everyone else, but yes, I write grimdark. Yes, I write all those things, and whether it be film or novels. But remember, there's also got to be an offset. Like, I also put funny shit in there and light moments, because you have to if you're going to be heavy and dark, and as a major thematic of your work, you also have to put amazing non-filtered beauty in there as well, or heavy like moments of laugh your ass off moments, so that you balance those things. If all you're doing is hitting people dark, it literally you're gonna depress the fuck out of them. Is it therapeutic? I don't know, man. I'm new to novels, but I've been writing for 30 years. So literally, I've always been that way. So I would say yes, even if it's subconsciously therapeutic by just the sheer act of doing. Because even when I started as a poet and shit like that, I was kind of known in that arena as not very filtered with what I would put in the writing. You know what I mean? Even whether it be humor or violence or emotion or love or whatever it is. And also, I think that's just great art. I think great art is unfiltered. I think beautiful art, or things that really move us, are whether it be art, painting, or music, or lyrics, or novels, or any of those things, is when there's almost really no filter on it, and people are just pouring their heart, whether that be sorrow or love or beauty or violence or whatever it is. They're laying themselves raw.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, I think that's a good way to answer that. I am going to go to Doug Losey's question.
Dude, TJ was going to talk about Brian's book and stuff like that, man. What are you talking about, dude?
I mean, I had to. So what's the balance that you have to have? Like, the thoughts on what the mix should be for dark scenes versus is not necessarily light, but less dark. I'm going to go to Kellen on this one.
So as JD kind of said, if you have like just like dark, bam, 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 it doesn't really matter anymore, because if you don't have things to reflect and contrast, then what's the point? Because it doesn't really show.
Agreed.
So if you have, like, if you've got, I love dark humor, dark comedy throughout. Like, I'd say pretty much all of my comedy and all of my books has like a bit of like a dark like theme to it. So I'd say just having that contrast, and like I switch POVs a lot chapter to chapter. So one chapter might have a lot of grimdark elements in it, and then the next chapter might be more so just some people talking and characterization and such, in more sort of a peaceful setting or a traveling setting that's kind of just giving this fake, okay, all this stuff just happened. Let's believe and just think about what these characters, what's going on with them and their personalities over here. So it's nice to just have that contrast and take fake, a fake chapter to chapter.
Can we take this moment to say how
go for it, JD.
Major BJ is? I mean, that's really, Brian is just like a star. He's a star. I go to bed every night.
The dark and light scenes built within Baldur's Gate 3 is just a great example for you all to know.
I love how, TJ, your Brian impression is getting more and more British. So keep doing it, because it's who he is in his heart.
Okay, so I'm going to jump to Rachel on this because I know that she has so much interest in this question.
We're still on the dark and light question, right? Because everyone's asking. I keep
Yes.
reading everyone's question in the sidebar. Perfect.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's that, because it like, I mean, like JD and TJ and everyone has already summed it up. In that you can't just go grimdark the whole time, because even if you're a big fan of it, you're going to be depressed as fuck after about 10 chapters, in which you're just like, does nothing happy ever happen? And it doesn't have to be happy-go-lucky and unicorns. It's the banter. It's having a moment with your, the other characters in the book. It's just having that moment of lightness, or in that you just realize
Yeah, or a moment of love or something.
Exactly, a moment of love or something like this. And it's one of those things, and like, this is a horrible but funny story. Someone very close to me passed away a couple of years ago, someone I consider family, and I'm with his, now widow, and we're looking outside and we see the hearse come up, but it's not a regular hearse, it's the one they do to transport the body, and it's a fucking Micra. And we see it, and she goes, Jesus, are they going to fold him up and put him in? And we just lost it. It was like 15 of us, like, crying, laughing at the thought. And it's so awful. But it's like a really dark, sad moment. And we're just all in fucking stitches. And I think that's it. I think that kind of sums it up in a really good way.
I like the
because it's an
Viking
awful story.
idea of loss, like celebrate their life, don't mourn their death.
I'm going to jump to TJ for answering the next.
All right, so I'm going back up to look at this question here. Unless
The
Jeannie
balance of light
any
and dark.
thoughts on what the mix should be for dark scenes versus light scenes? So I really like Rachel's question too about, is there therapy within writing of the grim dark? Because I think a lot of us who are writing grimdark are drawing from personal experience or maybe personal burdens, whatever we may have. I find it therapeutic in the same way, like the dark versus light, because life is just like that. I believe every day you come and show up, life is going to try to just beat the shit out of you, and you have to find ways to tell life, you're not going to defeat me. And that's why I think in the grimdark setting is like, I have certain characters built within the Dying Breed that are specifically there to just beat the main character down. And it's such a hard trial, but they're like, hey, it's for a reason. And at certain points, they build him back up. So there's hope, there's connection, there's this fact of resiliency tied throughout it. And I think you can have a very great contrast to where it's almost like a gray. It's not necessarily dark. It's not necessarily light. It's in the middle. I would say, the mindset of there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and thankfully it's not a train. So if you're taking your character through this dark tunnel, keep the small light there to continue on and have a moment of the clarity, have a moment of decompression for your character or the setting, whatever it is, to bring them out of that. So I don't know if I just ramble on, but that's at least the way I look at that.
But it's interesting because it's almost like the hope bit is almost as important as the grimdark bit.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And with TJ, what TJ just said, I literally have that image or concept with everything I do. To me, grimdark is this giant, heavy, thundering storm of pouring rain and wind and all of that stuff. But the kernel of the story is a small little candle in the center of it all, almost out, but it's not. It's still flickering.
Yeah, well, it's
You know what I mean?
even like when you take the movie 300, and they're being attacked and their shields up and they start to pound away on the shields with the arrows, and he's like, hey, I guess we are going to fight in the shade, huh? It's like, hell yeah, we fucking are. Now let's go behead some motherfuckers.
Yeah, and anyone that knows me, it's the same intensity you see in my personality is in my books, and the same humor you see, whether it be disco balls and sumo thong or fucking yellow summer dresses on Greta Garbo karaoke Wednesdays. You know what I mean? So it literally, you have to find laughter, man, and love. And like I said earlier, man, grim dark doesn't just mean no filtered violence, sexuality, trauma. I think I already mentioned it. It also means no filtered love and romance, and no filtered hope, and no filtered. It's just raw, unfiltered, whatever it is you're carving to a page. You know what I mean?
Also, I just want to take a moment to appreciate Chrissy's comment of the infamous grimdark movie Encanto. Exactly, that's exactly what I go for. Yeah.
All right.
I thought Finding Nemo was more grimdark.
Oh, so much grimdark.
If that's what you think, there's a lot of unpacking there, man, to do.
All right. I'm going to jump to Nick's question. Considering the labeling and explanations given for grimdark, do you believe that some authors label their books grimdark, although not really in the true subgenre? Or is it open to personal interpretation?
I think everything's open to personal interpretation, but
we'll start with you, Gigi.
I just think some people go too far for what I think Rachel referenced earlier in the book she read. I think some people do it for like shock value when there's really like zero poignancy or reason or movement of story in it. It's like, let me just slaughter a bunch of shit because I want to shock people, and somehow that's going to make me cool or better writer than I am, or let me put Good Adages, all those B films that are like horrible effing writing, but they throw bare titties everywhere so that they can, so 13-year-olds will sneak into the theater and watch it. I think there's got to be poignancy to it. I think I've said that several times, but it's really, there's got to be a reason for those things to be happening that's pushing the story and pushing the characters, or showcasing character development or any of those things.
Okay. I'm going to go to Rachel for this next one.
I actually love this question because I think it's a really, because even if you ask like what is lit RPG, you're going to get a different answer from every single person. I've heard things from it has to have game elements to like there has to be tables to there has to be character, like everyone has a slightly different one. So I think some authors might absolutely promote their book as super grimdark, and then you'll open it and you're disappointed. And I think, or you might open it and you might be like, why is there bare titties everywhere? It really, like, it depends, and I think it really is open to interpretation. Like, I would not label my stuff as a super grimdark at all. It's not, especially in comparison.
Yeah, but your concept is kind of grimdarky. The hero that's a villain.
Exactly. So it's that kind of question of like.
I mean, The Boys is definitely grimdark.
But it's the like, yeah, it's 100% open to interpretation. But I think as long as you're honest when you're talking about your book and when you're promoting it, I think that's what's way more important. And like, if people listens to your explanation for what your book is about, and they're like, actually, that's not grimdark enough for me, that's too grimdark, then that's totally fine. But yeah, I agree, 100% it is. Yeah, this Ryan does know me. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Ryan. But yes, it is.
How about you, TJ?
So it is open to interpretation. I would say I would label my stuff grim dark to bet on the safer side. And one of the things is it's a lot like comedy. There's some people that when you're trying to write comedy, it can be very hard because many people may not find what you think is funny, right? So there's some people who would read it and be like, oh, dude, this is like PG-13. What the fuck? Whereas others are like, oh my God, like you need to go see a priest and have the demon exorcised out of you. So one thing is if you question whether or not it is or isn't, try to find someone who reads that genre to just go over some of your material, give you some insight. I would say put the label on there out of safety. The other thing though is I would see Grimdark very similar to kind of like a splatter horror, where there are readers who literally look for trigger warnings of, this has this in the book. If you do not have those things in the book, the readers will hate you for it, and they will, tear you down for it. They specifically look to find that very select thing. So just be careful on, I want to put this tag on there to try to get this readership, or no, this truly is Grimdark. This was my intent. This is my aim. Therefore, I will put it on.
Yeah, you got to be you, man. I mean, like, you got to tell the stories that are inside you, and they'll find their audience. You know what I mean? So I know that's funny. Facebook said when I said that bear titty. Yeah, we're talking about bears.
That just makes everything better.
BG3.
Yep. All right, Kellen, you're up.
Yeah, so I think it's really up to interpretation and how you want to almost label yourself. I'd say there are horror elements in most of my books, but I've never almost contained myself to just saying my books are horror, or just saying one genre. Because for me at least, how I write, it's easier to just I'd say Krampus, I have labeled that as a horror book because that's what it is. But I'd say for any author, unless it's completely in one subgenre, JD's is very much so grimdark. That's why he labels it grimdark, because it is fully that. But if your book, if you want to have different subgenres and not just label it one, then I'd say don't label it that, because then people might assume that's all you write is that. But unless that is all you write, then do that. But that's not just what I write, so that's why I've never labeled my things a specific thing other than Krampus, because that's obviously a different case.
I think Rachel was going to put on her book Grimdark Lollipop.
No, that's the next one. That's the next. This one we're sticking with the boring title, Knights of Eternity. But after that, yeah, then Grimdark Lollipop comes out.
Yeah, pretty sure the flavor is soy sauce and vinegar.
That actually sounds really good. That sounds really nice.
I love this question so much. Paul, thank you for asking it.
I thought you were thanking Paul for telling Jez to fuck off. I was like, man, he's a good.
That's what I thought too.
I mean, Paul just makes my day. Hey, I mean, he's my spirit animal. What are taboo subjects to bring up even in a grimdark series? I think I'm going to start with Rachel for this.
No kids. Sorry. Don't because I mentioned it earlier, that book that just completely put me off. And I think anything with kids, and I think I liked what JD said earlier about I don't have any rape or sexual assault in my books, but if someone does and it's handled in a off-screen way or something like that, I have a preference for that when I'm reading that. But I think if you're anything like that, handle it well and handle it respectfully.
Yeah, it's unnecessary otherwise.
Exactly. Right? And if it's that, is it necessary to the plot? So for me, the kids stuff is completely, personally, no. And then when it comes to, unless it's happening off screen, if a kid dies off screen, that's fine. Whereas if there's sexual assault or something like the TJ.
Where's the wagon full of kids? Huh.
Oh, it fell off the cliff. It's fine. As long as I don't see it, that's okay. Whereas, yeah, so those would be the two: sexual assault as long as it's handled well, and kids as long as they die off screen.
Well, like I said, because I mean, I think the impact of kids dying by itself is grim dark. You don't need to get explicit with it. You know what I mean?
Explicit. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you. Just don't be explicit about it.
Again, I think those are shock value things that usually it's people trying to, I don't know, make up for their shit writing or something. I have no idea.
Absolutely. Let's go with Kellen on this next.
Yeah, so I'd say nothing overly gratuitous. Otherwise, especially if you're going under grimdark, just up to your own ideas of how you want to move forward. For me, I wouldn't say there's really. I've never had an idea and then thought that's too dark.
Agreed. Yes.
I've never had an idea that I'd say is too dark. So there are ideas out there that could be too dark or that I deem too dark. I just haven't had them. So it really, I'd say, depends on the person.
Hey, Rich. Do you know that Richie is Richie Rich's second cousin removed? And he has a fetish for feet, if anyone didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely. Send him as many feet pictures as you possibly can.
Thank you for the banner,
TJ, you're
Geneva.
up next.
So I don't. But where's Paul's comment? It would taboo something, right? Is there something taboo?
Yeah, is anything taboo? Like,
You're
like
saying
what
is
is the
Paul
taboo in
taboo? Is that
Grimdark?
what you said?
What are
Oh,
taboo
Paul-
subjects to bring
Paul
up
is
even in a
taboo.
Grimdark series? So I mean, I don't know if I've really found the boundary line in some ways. And the reason I bring that up is because normally like cannibalism is kind of a taboo thing where you don't really do it too much. Well, cannibalism is in book 1 of the Dying Breed series. It's how we get introduced to Golgoth, where he's chewing on a human hand. So I mean, like, yeah, I definitely went there. In book 2 of Bloodbath, there's murder that happens while a couple's having sex. I mean, it's book 2 is all about human trafficking and someone who's like hell bent on making the people, the crime syndicate, suffer in the most gruesome way possible. So I don't know if I would say there's anything within taboo that I have not touched yet within my work. And I had a conversation with someone about it. And so far, my readers on Patreon have not said, dude, this is too much. If anything, they're like, I love the fact that you have a character who is like hell bent on stopping this and going after it. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to answer.
Part is how you handle it, TJ. I think that's the thing. Like, it's how you handle these subject matters is the
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of Jez's stuff is grim dark, but he dances on the edges. You know what I mean? But I would classify his stuff as grim dark because he's very unfiltered with whether he's saying the word fuck or he's talking about violence.
Yeah, there's really no filter
or any of those kind of things. But although I really wish he would fix Jack, that would be good. But anyway, yeah, I think we talked about it already, man. I mean, I just think there's certain things that you can just mention, and within the sheer mention of it is enough of a horror and thing that you don't need to get explicit about it, whether it be kids or rape or there's certain boundaries as a human that you don't need to.
I mean, sure, the speed limit is 60 on the highway, but I really enjoy going 95.
I
think I just fried JD finally.
I think you stumped JD.
If it's serving the story and your character development, then it should be fine. I think when you talk about taboo or shock value stuff, that's usually 99% of the time I've ever seen that kind of shit. It's not serving the story. They're just literally trying to like add grotesque, horrible things to like I don't know, for whatever reason they're doing it.
Sometimes I like to add a little bit of tapatio on my already hot salsa.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna go with
Love
next
you, Jez.
question. No, actually, we already covered next question. So, Jez, I think we already covered what made them choose Grimdark. We went in that in the beginning. So I'm curious, what research goes into preparing to build your Grimdark series?
Would you say what Rachel goes into Grimdark series? Is that what you said?
It's me. I'm
Rachel
in all your
always
books
goes in
now.
Grimdark.
Lollipops.
Yeah.
Lollipops.
I'm in all your books now. You're welcome.
Furry outfits, wine.
And I die in all of them.
Glasses of wine, bottles of wine.
Sorry, what was the question?
What research goes into preparing to build your Grimdark series?
So I'd say with thematic elements, I wouldn't say I do much research other than sometimes like with suspense, I do enjoy reading books which contain more suspenseful scenes because then I can. It's quite hard to build a scene which I hope will encapsulate a reader and make them feel suspenseful, which is obviously like the objective as an author. But specifically with like darker scenes, the idea is to have the person be on the edge of their seat, if you would, just in the suspense. So I'd say my research would be just like reading other books I think I enjoy and that have like more suspenseful scenes and that I feel are able to suck me in and pull me in a suspenseful way. Otherwise, I wouldn't say I do much. It's just like I'll have a dream one night about something wacky and insane, and then I'll just write that, or I'll like watch the Krampus movie and then I'll decide to write a Krampus book. So it just kind of happens.
Completely
I'm excited
understandable.
though because Brian, back to Brian, which is important. In book 28 of his series, he said finally Sergeant Warcock is finally going to make an appearance. I'm very excited about it. Never mind. That was a soft interlude. Feel free to continue.
You're fine, JD. I'm actually going to stick with you on this. What's the research you go into building?
I don't know. That's a strange question. I mean, because it's
I know.
research is research. It's really your book. I mean, like you're researching whatever you need to research for the book. There's no really specific research for Grim Dark. Grim Dark is just like we talked about. Is just whatever you're writing in a raw, unfiltered way. With whatever you're writing. I mean, if I'm writing a grim dark Western, I still got to do a shit ton of research on Westerns and what weapons are used then and how the fuck people talked and little y'all and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But otherwise, there's no at least in my mind, there's no specific research. Just based on the grim dark. Now, some of my favorite authors are very grim dark. Joe Abercrombie with the First Law trilogy, that's very grim dark. The Bloody Nine, you got to be realistic about these things. And then Mark Lawrence did a great job in this Prince of Thorns series. That's very grim dark. So yeah, I mean, I've been inspired a lot. Tarantino's one of my inspirations from a film standpoint. I would say he's very grim dark in the way he does films. He doesn't have a lot of filter going on. Another one, Sergio Leone, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. To me, he's one of the most brilliant filmmakers out there, and he was pretty harsh and grim darky with what he did. So,
What about you, TJ?
All right. So the research and preparation. There's two things to this. There's research, and then there's writing for entertainment. And this is something that Michael Chatfield and I had a great conversation about at DragonCon, where, he had a character that got speared up in their upper chest and would have nicked their lungs. And they lived and they still won. And it's the fact of medically, you should be fucking dead. Like, there's no way someone would take that blow and survive. And so that's where it's like, okay, we want this to be super realistic, but we also want to have fun. We want to entertain. And in some aspects with Bloodbath, I over amplify the bloodshed that you would see from shooting a person. Oh my God. So there's times where you take liberties to make sure you have that entertainment value. One of the things that was an inspiration for Bloodbath was John Wick. Well, what I hated with John Wick was, dude, you're getting shot like 30 fucking times and you're not bruised. Like, yes, that armor exists, but the kinetic energy your body is taking, your entire side should be bruised with contusions and everything else. So it's like, I wanted that realism in Bloodbath to where this dude is in pain, he is hurting, he is everything else. So there is a part where you need to research. There's a part where you also just need to have entertainment and have some liberties with what you're writing. In some of my research with Bloodbath, because it is modern day, there was a lot of research to where I literally had addresses that really exist. I had the layouts of homes that really exist. I had every single bullet that was fired within the gunfight. I knew the trajectory. I knew what it was hitting. I knew the type of shrapnel that was coming from it. Bank accounts, cash, all the routing, all those different things. So there was countless hours spent to make sure I had every answer I needed for like where is this? We go to North Macedonia. I literally did research and was like, okay, give me the history of North Macedonia, give me the agriculture, give me the economic stance, da 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 da. So, you know,
That
you
is
can
research, though, for like normal book research. That's not really grim dark research.
Oh no, I make up everything on the normal stuff.
But there is. I want to make a quick amendment. There is one thing of research I did. I researched heavily on halberds.
Yeah, that's
what they are, how to use them, what they look like.
Yeah, I was shooting arrows with them the other day. Great weapon.
Yeah. Sorry, Rach, it's an inside joke from the panel the other day.
Thanks. I am laughing my head off and trying my darndest to hold it together with these four. They're cracking me up in their private chat.
See, here's the thing, Nick. Honestly, I am already on the watch list. So if I stop now, that's when they're really concerned. It's like, oh no, he's still researching. It's okay.
Okay. So JD, you've jumped in so many times that I haven't even had to choose you, but I am going.
Are you saying I'm a rude, invasive motherfucker?
No,
you know who's rude?
Discussion in chat.
Kyle skipped me.
Yeah,
Kyle did skip Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh, I am so sorry, Rachel.
She's the only beautiful one here, bro. Like, how the fuck is it? Like, how the fuck do you miss her, man?
No.
Wait, what was even the question again?
We're still on the how much research do we do?
Right.
We're still on that question. No, I'm only teasing. No, you did skip me. But all I was gonna say is you guys do research. That was my contribution. So carry on.
Exactly.
I didn't have a lot to bring to this.
Okay. Well,
right there, buddy.
I'm not gonna cut it there, but I am going to give you guys an opportunity.
Kayla didn't even answer.
Like your upcoming project.
Wait, me and JD did answer. I answered first, then JD did, then TJ did.
Oh, Rach.
No, Kayla, answer again. I didn't hear. Answer again.
Kayla did. No, Kayla answered because he does a lot of reading and he reads others and see how they do suspense. And
he watches
see, some of us was fucking listening. Yeah, he watches.
All right.
Yeah,
please, the Nordies. We'll stand down. Did you read Quest Academy Silvers, Kaylin?
I haven't started. I've got it right next to me. I haven't started.
Don't.
See, that's the research you need right there.
It's good.
Yeah, that's some grim dark, man. Brian.
It will answer all your questions.
Bloody. Death around every corner.
Here we go.
Aww.
Okay.
Now all we need is
the best doorstop you've ever had.
Chapter 1.
All right, Rachel, answer the question before we get off.
Kyle left.
You just broke Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle left. Actually, yeah, read the opening paragraph, please, Kaylin. That would be lovely.
Okay.
Apparently, Kyle said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out of here."
Right. Eject.
Sal smiled at that uniformed attendant who had lifted the velvet rope on their arrival. His parents walked in front of him, stopping at the door of the luxury carriage while they waited for the guests ahead of them to go inside and find their compartment. Turning on his heels, Sal glanced down the platform at the vast crowds of people packed from the train. There were no valet ropes or attendants in those sections, but rather a host of security professionals who weren't afraid to shove passengers back in.
We're reading from Brian's novel.
Dude, that was awesome.
Kaylin, that was beautifully done. Thank you so much.
Did you really feel? Can you feel it? Can you feel like the grim, dark, bloody corpses
There's some ballet ropes
on the edge of those words? Like literally, like
this is
I
how
felt
you
like
go
I was
around.
about to get a swarm of orcs slaughtering a village right around the corner there.
We had the dark scenes, the grim dark panel, and we ended in a light scene with Kaylin reading.
True. It's true. All right. So if we want to do that, we're going to do that. But I want you guys to have a chance to talk about your books. So, Rachel.
Yes.
You're gorgeous and you need time.
Yeah, all good. So my name is Rachel Nee Kirk, and my book Knights of Eternity is coming out. It is about a woman who gets killed while trying to save someone she loves. She ends up in a video game world, and instead of it being the heroic, valiant knights she thought she was ending up with, the leader's a piece of shit. and a lot of bad stuff happens to her. And yeah,
Yeah, I'm
Isn't that
excited to read it, Rach.
thank you, JD.
All right, Kellen, tell us.
So my first book, Silvers, in my Quest Academy series, actually came out a few
Yeah.
months ago. So that's pretty exciting. I will be doing a read through, which will be on my Patreon if you want to listen to
This
that.
is Corporal BJ before he moved. He grew up to be Major BJ.
But I've got my Elementalist series. First 4 books in that are out. I've got the first book, the first Starwalker in my Forging Valiant series. Book to the Astral Paradox. Hopefully, like December, January, maybe. But in the meantime, the Krampus came out yesterday on pre-order. It's gonna release November 3rd. Pre-order's out, 99 cents. Krampus is coming to town. There's gonna be some festive fun. It's a joyous occasion. It's it's time to be merry. It's a nice old horror story, so it's pretty fun. Audible is coming out November 3rd as well, I think, hopefully.
All right, JD.
Oh,
Tell
me,
us.
dude,
Tell
I'm
us
literally
your
my
amazing
takeover is next. So literally, it's kind of I'm gonna just switch to TJ.
TJ, I love you with all my heart. I want to hear your books.
I love you too, big guy. I love you too. So I am TJ Lombardi. I think Geneva has got my stuff there for you guys to see. So I've got the Dying Breed series fantasy. It's on Amazon. It's actually Private BJ, which is ironically also how TJ got on this panel. Yep, that's it. What else? I have my YouTube channel, TJ Lombardi, author, where I like to do weekly updates, share with you guys thoughts, motivational stuff, things that hopefully encourage you guys to continue your writing journey. And then on Royal Road, you have Call Sign Bloodbath. So if you guys love the action intensity of John Wick, humor of Deadpool, stuff like that, I think you're going to love it, really enjoy it. So you can go follow me there, and then I will be dropping The Dying Breed Thievery, a short story out of my fantasy, on my Royal Road account as well. So if you want to follow me, you can get some of the short stories that I'll be posting. But yeah, a huge shout out to these other panelists because these guys are amazing, and I am blessed to be on this panel. Kalen, is already killing it, young in his career, and got 7 books under his belt. So shout out to him. JD has got so much experience, and of course Rachel, the #1 Irish author in all of Ireland. So I am blessed and honored to be on this
Gorgeous
panel.
woman.
Yeah, Brian only hopes to be her.
Yeah. Yeah, all the Nordies are just going to switch over and become Kirks soon. So
Yeah. Oh my God, he'd be so mad.
He's
not even
you giddy. I
so
can tell.
fuck him.
I didn't think on a Grimdark panel would be the most I laugh on this, this whole thing.
All
Hey,
right,
dude,
guys.
what
So
do they
this
say?
has
Most
been-
humor is born out of tragedy. So
There's my book. JD's got the link up.
Oh, that's Kaylin's book. It's going to do so well.
See, even Jez agrees, man. You're the #1
right.
Legion Irish author.
I'm just
Or
super
not
excited
them.
because I already have the shirt design ready for Rachel for when her book comes out. So I'm excited. I'm going to get another great shirt here soon,
I'm fucking terrified.
as you should be. Actually, Brian is the one who
As
should be
you
terrified.
should be.
Hey, Brian should be
All
happy,
right.
man. In Legion, like we just literally boosted his sales by at least 1%.
At least 1%.
That's actually
At
thanks to Kaylin. He
least.
should be thanking Kaylin. Kaylin needs a character in Brian's book.
I'll narrate book 2,
Hell yeah! Get out of the way,
Hey,
Daniel.
Brian promised to put me in his book yesterday, so I'm like going crazy nuts.
I personally just think
Even
he
though
needs
he's
more
planning on
disco
killing me.
balls, but still, man.
All right. This has been a wonderful, fun panel, and I have been trying my best not to
Who's got
laugh
Star Wars in the
at every
background?
single thing they're
Isn't that Harry
saying.
Potter?
So
Yeah,
Fuck
Harry
Harry
Potter.
Yeah.
I apologize. It's
Doesn't even
my
sound like Star Wars.
so-
Not with that attitude, Kaylin. Anything can be Star Wars if you think about it right.
That's
no one's
right.
ever really gone.
All right, guys. This has been fun. We're going to do that strange wave thing until Geneva cuts us off. We
We're not
had
doing
a
it.
Here,
Us
Lola, we're
Nordies,
gonna
we
do
gotta
here,
make a
we're
stand
gonna-
here. Not
The
No,
Krampus, he's
uh,
coming this Christmas. It's gonna be fun.
Lola.
You better
He's coming this
watch out.
Valentine's Day
Better
too.
not cry. You
And St.
better
Patrick's Day.
something, because Krampus is why Kaylin's writing books now, you see.
Those like get this shit done with, man.